Hello, welcome to another episode of Mornings with Marla. I am so happy to be here. Today I'm doing another solo episode, and it's going to be all about self-care, compassion, and consistency, which I feel are like the three pillars of success. And consistency to me means more like taking action steps, being very consistent with what you're doing and regimented. Like if you're starting your own business or anything like that, it's all about being consistent and showing up when you say you're going to show up. And to be really honest, today I was just like, kind of forcing myself into sitting down and recording this. I was just like, woke up and I was like, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. And your head goes into this little kind of like, you don't have to though. You could skip this week, like blah blah blah. People won't really care that much. And it's just like not listening and not tuning into that voice in your head and not letting that be like the winner of what, your consistency and how you're going to follow through and how you're going to show up. And for me, one of the really big things that helps a lot is just having a self-care routine. And I know I've touched a lot on a morning practice, and just having this 20 minutes every single morning where you carve out for yourself. And for me, this is really part of my self-care routine, is to make sure I get up, don't touch my phone for 20 minutes at least, make myself tea, do a little yoga or meditation, and it just propels you into the day in just such a shifty way. To me, self-care is just being able to nourish when you know you need nourishment. So there's such a fine line between resistance and like actually needing relaxation. And we live in such a patriarchal society. It's like we're always moving, trying to get things done. And then all of a sudden you find yourself in this guilty headspace almost, where you're just like, I'm not doing enough, I'm not providing enough content, I'm not working hard enough, I'm not making enough. And you can like get yourself into this like angsty kind of space of just like, what am I doing? I'm failing, blah, blah, blah. And it's just this negative self-talk that happens. And I really feel like there's moments where the rest is the most important part, and that is your action step. So, for example, yesterday, I think we just vegged out on the couch for a few hours, and I was just like, this is exactly what I need today. I need to rest after, a long week, and take this Saturday to not do anything and not talk to anyone and not go anywhere. And I went to a really amazing yoga class yesterday at one of my favorite breweries, and Random Rad played, and it was phenomenal. But then after, I was just like, all right, I'm just going to rest the rest of the day, and this is okay, and this is where I'm at right now. And it's just allowing yourself those times and those spaces to rest without eating yourself alive over it. And I really feel that if you're going to choose to take a rest day or a rest few hours or be in the rest space, if you're sitting there guilt tripping yourself through the space that you're in, it's not rest anymore. It's just another energetic kind of way to be non-productive in your head, whereas rest can be extremely productive for you. But if you're sitting there guilt tripping yourself over it, it becomes the opposite of productive. It doesn't do the things it needs to do for you. So last night I went to bed super early, slept in a little bit, felt so good. I just caught up on some sleep. And instead of being like, oh, I should have gotten up at 6 a.m. and done my morning practice and recorded my podcast before 9 o'clock and all of this stuff, it was just like, no, this is something that I really needed for myself. So within the realm of self-care, it can look like allowing that rest to happen. It can look like making a really beautiful bath for yourself at night and light candles and incense and play really good music or put on your favorite show, and put some essential oils and Epsom salts in there, and just having this carved out time for yourself is so important. And it's something that people forget to do all the time. With the clients I work with, a lot of time they're working on carving out space for me time, carving out space to make themselves dinner or meal prep a little bit, or work on their garden or relax. And people are just like, I keep picking up shifts at work and I'm working 6 days a week. And then I get home and I'm exhausted. So I just want to go to bed. And so I eat out a lot and I'm not cooking for myself. I'm not nourishing myself. And it can be this space of also like, are you a yes person? Like, are you the type of person that just says yes to everything, even when your gut is telling you to not say yes because you're trying to people please? And if we people please constantly, it's like, where is that space to please yourself? Where do you come back to filling your own cup first before you go and fill those other people's cups? Or if your friend wants to go out tonight with you and you say yes because you just want to make that friend happy or please them in that way, but really you don't want to go out at all, and you're not listening to your body, listening to your intuition of telling you like, no, tonight's a night I'm not going to get FOMO, I'm not going to miss out on anything, I just really want to like relax this evening. Another thing that is super awesome from the book, Pussy, she talks about setting up your home and your space as if you were having your favorite person over, or like the most important person over, or like a celebrity over, or someone that you just really idolize. And how would you set your house up for them? Would you clean it? Would you buy flowers and decorate? What foods would you make? What wine would you get? How would you set up the dinner table? What would you do for that person to make them feel super invited and welcome and loved and like nourished? And set it up for yourself. So that is going to be my challenge for you, is pick a day of the week that you have time at night and set up your environment as if you were having your favorite person over, and buy the flowers, splurge on the good cheese, get the chocolate, get the ice cream, draw the bath, clean up the space, set up a beautiful table setting for yourself, and utilize this one night a week to take yourself on an epic date. It doesn't have to be going out, it could be at home, or it can be going out. It's whatever you feel you would want to provide for someone else as like this epic, beautiful experience. Do it for yourself. And I think just carving out time and space for you to really care for yourself and nourish your body is just, it'll change and shift so much. And it's putting that self-love into you and like recognizing that you are the most important person to you, and you have to provide yourself love and care in order to be able to grow and be successful and have the energy to continue pouring out to others. The other piece of this is compassion. It is having compassion for yourself when you're in a bad headspace, having compassion for yourself when you're just not feeling it, having compassion for all of the emotions you have, whether it be anger or sadness or lack of motivation or laziness, or like tears are just flowing, you're really weepy, and it's having compassion for yourself through these emotions and through the wave of emotions that we all go through, and literally like hugging yourself and saying it's okay to be in this space. And this has been something that has transformed so much for me, because like I feel like everyone, I can get in a very bad head spiral, and this is something I've been working on, and this is something I love to teach in my coaching, is how to get out of that funk, and not necessarily like out of it, but how to let it move through you and sit with it in order for it to flow through a little bit faster and a little bit more easeful and full of grace. And so within this, an example would just be if I'm feeling in that failure mindset, like I get in this perpetual snowball of negative emotion where I'm just like, I'm not succeeding enough, I'm not doing enough, I'm not posting enough, I'm not communicating with friends enough, like I could be doing more, I should be doing more, I have more time, like I can put more stuff on my schedule, and just continually taking on and taking on and taking on all of these things, and it turns to this point where you're burning the candle at both ends, and then you burn out, and then you have this like fall, like a hard fall, and it's all about the ebb and flow. And of course there's going to be more times where you're feeling more energized and like you can totally get more stuff done, and I say ride that wave. Like when you're in the space of like, I'm doing it, I'm feeling it, like I'm so excited about all of this, like ride it as hard as you can because it doesn't last forever. And then in the space between where it's just like, I have nothing to give right now. I can't think of a post to write. I can't think of something more to do in my workplace or my home space. And I'm just exhausted. It's like in those moments, rather than being like, Marla, why are you so exhausted? Why aren't you doing more? It's being like, it's okay, Marla, to be in this place, and it's just the ebb and the flow, and it's part of the human experience is to go through these motions. And that's when I ask myself, is this resistance, or is this me literally needing rest? And now I can tap into my intuition a little bit more and really kind of like comb through and fine tune what I need. And sometimes it's resistance. Like I said in the beginning of the podcast, like I didn't want to do this one today. And, and now I'm here and I'm like, oh, this is great. Perfect. Like I'm feeling it. It's good. And I knew that in the moment of feeling that like resistance and like, I could just do it next week kind of thing, that by the time I got done recording, I would feel amazing and it would be perfect and exactly what I needed. And recognizing that was a resistance within myself rather than a, no, I really can't do this right now. I really need a break. And just having compassion through all of those emotions, through the recognition that it is resistance, through the questions of why am I resisting, and because it's like in those resistance places is where the magic happens. It's in those fear spaces, those spaces where you're just like, I'm not going to do this. It's just not going to work. You convince yourself completely that it's just a bad idea. And those are like the resistance things. And those are the fear spaces. And that's like the, oh, what if I fail? What if I fail? What if I fail? This might not work. And you get really into your own head about this. But I always ask myself, what's the worst thing that could happen? Like, what is the worst thing that's going to happen in this moment? Even like in relationships, the the scariest moment is when you recognize that you love someone as a partner or as a friend, or even a family member, and you're just like, do I tell them? And you get all wrapped up in your head and you go through the cycle and it's all you can think about. And then you're just like, do I tell them I love them? And in that moment, I'm like, what's the worst that's going to happen? They're not going to say, I love you back. They're going to say, oh, I'll never feel that way about you. And then it's just like, oh, clarity, boom. Like, okay, that's fine. I can love you and you don't have to love me. Like, it doesn't have to be a two-way street. Or just compassion in the sadness when it's just been a weepy, rough day. And like, you feel like nothing's going your way. Everything's going against you. It's just like, you get stuck in traffic, and then you drop your lunch, and then you trip and fall at the grocery store, and then you go to get food and they forget like your sauce on the side, and then you run out of gas, and then and it's just like this is a perpetual day of just like, why is the universe fighting me right now? It's just like, it's okay. It's gonna be a day. It's one day. Tomorrow's a new day. Let's have compassion for the space we're in, and like, let's laugh about it. Let's just be like, well, it's not my day today. So let's keep moving forward. So through the self-care routine of just making sure to take time to nourish yourself, take time to sleep, take time to make yourself a nice dinner, take time to draw that bath, take time to sit on your yoga mat and meditate or do some yoga, take time to be creative, and don't attach to the end result. Don't attach to finishing a project. Just do it for pure enjoyment because it's something you love to do, rather than turning it into, because this is another thing I hear sometimes, is like, okay, yeah, my self-love is going to be to do this like house project, and I'm going to redo my bedroom. I'm going to rearrange it. I'm going to clean it. I'm going to clean up my closet, like all this stuff. And this will feel so good when it's done. And then you get to this, like, you do like 3 hours of this thing and you don't finish it. And then all of a sudden you're guilt tripping yourself because you didn't finish the project that was supposed to be your self-care thing. And so it's like, make sure that when you're entering the self-care phase, that you're not attaching to an outcome from it. You're not attaching to finishing anything. You're literally enjoying the process and being present within whatever you're doing for yourself. That's why I love to make tea in the morning, is like I'm just being present with my cup and with the stuff I put in there and the hot water, and then smelling it and tasting it, and really just taking even 5 minutes to be completely present in that process. Or making dinner, it's like, if it doesn't taste good at the end and you're experimenting, whatever, that's how you learn, is like you continue to move forward and do things for yourself. And like for me, it's been gardening, which is like an amazing thing. And all of a sudden I have all these people reaching out to me like, what do I do about this plant? And I'm just like, I don't know. And it's all a learning experience. And like, as I've killed many plants and failed many plants, I've learned so much. And now I know to like not overwater, or like what plants need some sunlight and which ones don't need so much. And like I've learned how to tune into the plant and be like, all right, you're not happy here, let's try this spot. And I have moved all my plants in my house probably 20 times each plant, and now they're all thriving and super happy. Is just because I tuned into them and listened. And I failed a lot. Like I failed a lot of plants died. And so it's just understanding that through the failure you're learning and you're growing, and it's only getting you closer to that success. In the self-care, let's say you really planned a self-care night and you get home and you're just like, I can't, I'm just going to lay on the couch and watch Netflix. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, I failed at even giving myself a self-care night. And then it could also turn into this perpetual mind gook and like this snowball effect of negativity. So it's recognizing when you are giving yourself self-care moments, it is being present in that moment and not judging yourself for how you're even doing the self-care routine. If that makes sense. So it's like, as you're in the process of this compassion space, this self-care space for yourself, there is no judgment on how it looks or how it ends or how it feels. Sometimes you might take that bath and you still don't feel better, and you're just like, well, that didn't work. You're like, I'm never doing that again. So it's recognizing that through these processes, let's not attach to this emotional outcome or attached to the experience you think it should be, attached to the present moment of being within it and doing it, and non-judgment and compassion for yourself and where you're at, because it just defeats the whole purpose if you're gonna do all of this amazing stuff for yourself and then still feel bad about it later. Which I feel like we find ourselves in. We're like, doing the routine, yeah, yep. And then you do it for like a week and you're feeling so good, and then you forget one day, or you just don't do it one day, and then you beat yourself up over it. And this is counterproductive because it's like you've taken so much time and space to cultivate these things that make you feel good, and then the second you don't do them, then it's like a guilt trip for a couple days. And this is just like undoing all of the done stuff. And this happens around food a lot. Like, for example, a couple nights ago, we got Thai food, and I ate the entire order of the crispy parcels or crab rangoons. I think there were 10 in there. I think I gave my partner one and had the rest of them. And I woke up and I was like, that doesn't feel so great in my belly right now. But I just like held my belly and I was like, I'm sorry, belly, I was really hungry last night. I didn't mean to put so many crispy parcels in you. And I just kind of rubbed it around and kind of giggled about it and just like gave myself compassion through that moment of definitely overeating, but also like, am I going to sit here and guilt trip myself for 3 days about eating too many crab rangoons, or am I going to move forward with my life and continue to eat like a normal person? And this is like the perpetual loop I think happens a lot within eating disorders. Is you binge eat, you overeat because you haven't given yourself enough nourishment the day before or a couple days before, and it becomes this vicious cycle of like, oh my god, I ate a whole pizza, I'm not going to eat for like 3 days, I don't need any food anymore. And then you like are starving yourself of these nutrients and these things, and then all of a sudden your body's just like, give me food, and then you eat another whole pizza again. And it's like catching yourself in these cycles of overindulgence, guilt, overindulgence, guilt, overindulgence, guilt. And I feel like that can be applicable for so many things, not just food. It can be workplace too. Like, oh, I'm going to do all of this stuff and I'm over to it. I'm going to get all this stuff done because it's like my deadline this week. And then you just, like I said, you're burning the candle at both ends, and all of a sudden it's just like, then you don't do anything. Then you just throw your hands up and give up. And it's like, you have to find this balance, and everything in moderation is just so key to me. Is, you know, don't cut out the chocolate cake. Don't cut out like the cocktail at night if you want it. It's like moderation is everything, and it won't create this extreme polarities between things you're doing, which is how I live my life. I'm very like extreme polarity. Like, I want to be working 3 jobs, busting my butt, and then I want to take 3 months off and travel and do nothing. And so if you can find this beautiful balance between it, it just feels so good, and it's more grounding, and it's not like ooh, like shifting back and forth so much to where you're just like pinging up and down, and like your body can't find this like equilibrium through it. Whereas when you're not in these extreme places of like overworking, underworking, or overeating, undereating, or going out all the time and then not going out at all, it just brings to balance, and like your body can find this more steady wave rather than just such a bouncing up and down. And then consistency. This is the crucial piece here. Is a lot of people talk about manifestation and how it's possible, and what they do, and how they get to where they want to be, and by like writing thoughts down, and like having mantras, and really setting your goals towards something. But manifestation doesn't work without action. And you can sit and you can pray and you can meditate and you can write and you can ask and you can bow down and just be begging for what you want in life. But do you think it's going to come to you if you're not taking action steps to get there? Do you think that all of this prayer and praying is going to get you what you need? And there's a really good analogy here, and I might get this wrong, so don't quote me on it, but basically this guy believes in God, like super true, knows God is going to be his savior, just really relies heavily, like fully on the process and presence of God bringing into his life all of like this positive, he just like manifesting his things, but he's 100% relying on his prayers to God. And there's a flood and something along the lines of, he sits in his house and he's praying to God, and he goes, no, God's going to save me. God's going to save me. I trust that. I know that. And like it's starting to flood more and more and more, and right before the flood comes in and starts to take out the houses, like the Coast Guard comes by and they look at him and they go, hey man, get in, like we'll save you, like the flood's coming. And he goes, no, God's gonna save me. And he sits in his house and he continues to pray, and the water comes in and it's waist deep, and this like boat comes by and waves him and says, come on, let's get in, you're gonna die. And he goes, no, God's gonna save me, and sits there and prays more. And finally he's like on his roof of his house and praying, and this helicopter sees him and puts a rope down and says, hey man, grab the rope, we'll save you. Like, and he goes, no, God's coming, God's gonna save me. And in his prayers, the flood continues, and he's praying, and he's like, why? What's going on? Like, I know I'm going to be saved. And then he ends up passing away or dying, and he gets to the gates of heaven, and he goes, what the heck? Why didn't you save me, God? Like, why didn't you save me? And God was like, what do you mean? I sent the Coast Guard, I sent a boat, I sent a helicopter. You just chose not to grab those things and take that action step to get out of that situation. And this is like a really great comparison to manifestation. And it's gotten this kind of like weird like, it could be, is it manifestation or is it white privilege? It's got this weird connotation to it now where people are just like, oh, manifesting, like that's just something like white privilege has, or that's just something you can do if you have like enough like resources and means to get that done. But it's true, you can manifest your desires as long as you're taking action steps to get them. You're implementing things into your life, you're asking for things, you're putting in the effort, and you're giving out the energy so you're able to receive the energy back. So for this, consistency is so important. It's consistency in showing up and being on time, consistency on keeping your word, consistency on doing things that when your deadline is. And another thing about deadlines, to go off on a little swing here, is if you're giving yourself a deadline, give yourself a deadline that makes you feel like you have it's spacious. So like if you're like, okay, I'm gonna I'm gonna record a podcast and get my podcast going, but I'm gonna do it by next Friday. And you give yourself a week, and then all of a sudden it becomes overwhelming and daunting, and then you don't want to do it, and then you resist it even more. But if you're like, I want to do a podcast within the next 6 months or within the next year, it gives you a lot of space, a lot of contemplation time, a lot of time to do research, get the right microphone, practice a little bit, get some topics, and it makes it a more fun process than like a heavy process. You don't feel like this burden is on your shoulders. You feel like you have enough space and time to get what you want. And like that is something I've been working so hard on, is nothing happens overnight. Like you're not gonna close your eyes one night, do heavy manifestation prayer, and wake up the next day and be this uber successful human that you're praying for. It takes time and effort and tears and blood and sweat and consistency, and recognizing that every day is not going to be easy. There's a lot of resistance coming up, especially in the things you care the most about. So I know like some artists, it's like, okay, I want to be an artist. I want to be a full-time artist. I want to totally have my full income be from my painting. And they post their paintings and none of them sell. And then they're just like, all right, this isn't working. I'm not doing this anymore. Well, screw painting. Like something else will catch on. And they've given it literally like a couple of months. And it's hard to move through that because it's something that you care so deeply about, especially when you are starting like your own business or starting an entrepreneurial path. It's even harder to feel that unloved unworthiness, and it's even easier in those moments to give up. But with consistency, I think not only will your craft get better and be more perfected, but you'll reach more people. More people will see that this is what you're doing. Like, oh, there's so-and-so again posting more paintings. And at a certain point, people will catch on and they will be more engaged and you will grow more success. And this comes with consistency and continually showing up. And for me, it's like, to show up sometimes I have to realize it's not about me at all. It's about my why and the people I want to help and the people I want to receive my medicine. And if I'm reaching one human on this episode that finds a benefit from this, then I have done my job and I have fulfilled my why. If I reach 10,000 people with this podcast, then I have grown exponentially, but I've also still fulfilled that why of genuinely wanting to be of service to others, to help them move through the processes that I've moved through that literally almost ended my life. And so if I can be here and sit here and show up and really hold my why in my heart and be consistent with that, that is where the magic happens. That is where things start to grow and success comes, and it could take 6 months, it could take 6 years, like I don't know, but I'm continually coming here to show up for you, to see if my words resonate in a way with you that is helpful. And to me, that is my full body yes, that is my full body goosebumps that I get daily, that is my contemplation in my mind constantly, is like, where can I learn more, to gain more knowledge, to have more verbiage, to speak my frequency of my soul out to you, who are then receiving it and hopefully gaining a little bit of something from it. And so with, the self-care routine, sorry, it's 11:11. I love 11:11. I see it all the time. Minor detour there. Make sure you make a wish if you're listening to this and made it this far, because 11:11 is just such a epic time to see, and it's one of my favorites, and I see it almost every day, and it just switched over, and I was like, yes, this is perfect. I'm doing exactly what I'm meant to be doing right now. It's the little things. But with the self-care routine and the compassion for yourself and your failures and where you're at, and also the consistency, I think that's like the trifecta of success and a happy human in that, and really dropping the it's a lot of people say, in order to be successful, you have to cut out everything else in your life, 100% focus on what you're doing, and that's going to clear the space, and then you'll rise, and then you'll find success, and then you'll make all the money. But to me, it's having this slow integration from the working world, the corporate world, into the world of like the things I want to be doing, or kind of more of this like set your own schedule, do your own thing, be your own boss, entrepreneurial kind of thing. So yeah, it's being consistent even when you have a ton of other things going on, and really giving it your all and your 200%, and showing up when you don't want to, because recognizing it's not for you, it's not 100% for you, it's for those who seek to receive your medicine. So yeah, be consistent with your stuff, keep showing up. If you're doing, like for me anyway, my schedule is like, okay, I do my podcast once a week. I'm teaching a yoga class once a week in the mornings. I'm hosting a new Moon Dojo with my friend Jacqueline, who was on a previous podcast, once a month. I am, doing my coaching clients a couple times a week. I am also working like 32 hours a week doing personal assistant work. And it's how to hold all of that on your tray without being overwhelmed, while still showing up consistently, and with just holding like utter self-love and compassion for the spaces you're in when they don't feel the best, and being able to move through the ebb and flow with as much grace and ease. And grace and ease for me has been just like my 2 words of 2020. It's like, hey, I've been calling everything one giant experiment, which makes it so much more fun to me. I'm like, this life is one giant experiment. Like everything we're doing is a giant experiment. My garden is a giant experiment. My podcast is a giant experiment. My personal assistant jobs are pretty much a giant experiment, because every person you meet needs something different, and you kind of have to like navigate how to communicate with them best, what they need the most, what cleaning supplies they like to use, how they like their house cleaned, what kind of groceries they like. And so it's just been this experiment in learning about new people in their homes, and how to best serve them. It's an experiment cooking dinner. Like, you don't know how it's going to turn out. You hope it's good. You taste it. You think it might need a little something here, a little something there. And if you're calling everything a giant experiment, it's shifted so much in my life of just like making it seem like this little kid science project, rather than like such a like, I have to do this in my life because this is my one shot, and I have to get it right. It's like, no, just approach everything as if it were just, concocting this weird science experiment, like putting a Mentos in a Coca-Cola to see what happens. And it just makes things so much more fun and so much more giddy. And what happens in life is we take everything so seriously. um, you know, and because we're emotional beings, and we tend to overthink things, especially I feel like women, and maybe it's just more women talk about it and men still overthink things. And but like we create these stories in our heads that we attach to as truth, and they're not. And this is a huge communication thing, is like, especially in partnerships, when you are feeling like something is off, or you start creating the story in your head, like, oh, they don't want to hang out with me, they don't love me anymore, they're cheating on me, well, you literally like go in this perpetual mind motion, and you literally create this story in your head that isn't true, but it's so true to you that it completely affects your relationships and your mental psyche. Or even like, sometimes I'm walking through a grocery store and I'm like, why did that person look at me like that? They don't like how I'm looking today. Does my shirt look okay? Do my pants look okay? Is something undone? Is something on my face? And you just create these stories in your head, but most of the time they're not true. and B, it's like, who cares if they don't like your shirt, or if they're like looking at your face because you have like a booger in your nose or something. It's like, why is that all of a sudden have to be such a serious big deal? And so we tend to not only create false stories, but they're just like, all of a sudden our world is shattered. Like everything is just succumbed by this one thought of this, like, this person doesn't like me, or this thing isn't working. And we just attach to that when it's really not 100% true. And so, when you are in a moment of everything's against me right now, or like, um, this isn't working, or I'm not having a good time with my partner, or he's mad at me, it's just like, pause and come back to your breath. Like, breath is the thing that will bring you back always. If you're having a moment of chaotic mind, or crazy mind chatter, or self-doubt, or just going into this rabbit hole of crap that your brain is telling you, your mind is convincing you is true when it's not, just pause. Take a deep breath. Everything will shift. Recognize that we are the tiniest little insignificant things ever, pretty much. I mean, a fly, we could compare ourselves to flies, but we're on this giant rock flying through space, being kept alive by a ball of fire in this universe that is so expansive, we don't even know that much about it. And if you think about it and like really hone out the lens, like take the lens, back it up a lot, recognize that, like, I'm not trying to say your feelings are invalid, because all feelings are valid. And I 100% believe that if you are feeling an emotion, it is your truth in that moment, and it is a valid truth. But where are we going in this like mind snowball entering the trenches where we can't get ourselves out, when if we just like backed up and recognize that, like, this is one big experiment. This isn't supposed to be so serious and so hard and so hurtful. This is supposed to be playful and fun and experimental and joyous and full of love and connection. And, we can get into this lonely feeling. And I think that's one of the like most detrimental things about the human condition is loneliness. And I think it all started from tribes, and it all started from being together, working together, helping feed each other, helping taking care of each other's kids. And it's turned into such a separate thing, and everyone's living their own lives, but we go through these emotions, and this loneliness comes up. And it's an emotion that everyone has, and to recognize you're not alone in your loneliness is a big deal too. And I mean, I'm so thankful to have such an amazing partner in my life that just fills up my cup every day and gives me hugs and kisses and cuddles. He's learned my love language is definitely words of affirmation and, you know, contact. And people who don't have that support system or aren't connected super close with their family or have segregated themselves out of their friendships, it's hard. And it's hard to recognize that you're not alone in this world and we're all here together in community. And that's one of the reasons I love yoga studios and just being part of any sort of studio like that, like karate or tai chi or yoga or gymnastics or soccer or whatever it is. I think it's just, if you can find a space where you feel like you can be part of community, it'll shift a lot as well. Or like find a person that you really like to talk to. I know video games are not my favorite thing in the world. A lot of you know that, but even in the gaming world, it's like that is where they connect and communicate with their community, is in the gaming world, and meet friends that way. And to be able to not feel lonely in this life and in this world is pretty crucial and pivotal. And you know, you think of, I mean, Japan has a really high suicide rate because of how lonely and separated they feel, and how they don't feel like they can be their authentic selves. It feels more like they're part of the masses just going through the motions. And that's another point, is like being your authentic, unique self and using your gifts to provide to the world. Like, it's really easy to come into this headspace and be like, oh my God, okay, they're doing really well. I love everything they're saying. I love everything they're doing. I love Blue's podcast so much. And I'd love to have her on this podcast one day, but I'll find myself listening to her and be like, oh man, maybe I should say something like that. Maybe I should lay out my podcast in that way. Maybe I should blah, blah, blah. She's finding so much success with that podcast. And like, maybe I should do it like her. And then I have to pull it back and be like, no, 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 no. You are your unique individual. Do what speaks the most true to you and be as authentic as you possibly can. And then the people who receive that will be part of your community because they like the authentic you. They don't like the you that's playing to be someone else. And I think that's another part of self-love and compassion, is really falling in love with yourself and who you are as a person, because there's no one else out there like you. You as yourself are going to attract the people that are going to be those lifelong friends, lifelong partners, lifelong family. If you are acting like your true self, if you're not trying to be like this chameleon and turn into something else because of like your external situations or where you are in, like in the, you know, if you go to a party and you're just feeling really off and really out of like the loop or whatever, it's like you don't have to transform yourself to fit into that collective. You can leave, or, you know, just be as authentic as you possibly can and see what happens, because you might attract different people that really resonate with that. And your uniqueness is your power. It is the way that you move through life and the way that you hold yourself in a space. And I think as long as you're being authentic and kind and showing up with unconditional love and compassion and consistency, I think that's where the magic is. And that is where you'll find the most success, because you're not trying to be like anybody else. You're being yourself. And if you are your own brand, you have to be able to show up as yourself no matter where you are. If you're in a restaurant, if you're doing a talk or a speech, or if you're writing a book, or if you are just talking to a new human that you just met, you have to have all of your special qualities in your back pocket, able to bring them out whenever. It's not something that you can just memorize, like taking a test, and have note cards and be like, oh, okay, you asked me that question. What is my answer to that? I don't really know. It's like, you really have to live within authenticity of who you are as a person, and that will just show so much more and attract so much more. I always say, like, your voice is your soul's frequency coming out, and if you can use that as speaking truth constantly, your truth constantly, that's what people feel within them. They feel that truth frequency. They feel resonatory towards that because it is so powerful to you. So therefore, it comes off as powerful for them. And whether they agree or not, you can't be shifting your being because you're around different people. It just gets exhausting. So being your authentic self and showing up consistently is so important, just in everything in life. And I get some days it's like, I don't want to talk to anyone today. I just want to be introverted and do my own thing. Like, please don't talk to me. But it's in those moments that I feel like you blast through that resistance and some things shift. And I have a story for this one. I was in a really funky mood a couple months ago at the grocery store, and this just like stuck with me so hard because it just like made me recognize like compassion, not only for myself but for other people. But I was in line and I was late to be somewhere, and it was this lady checking out at the grocery store, and she was just taking forever. And I was just like, oh my God, do I move lines? Do I patiently wait? I have about 3 minutes till I need to be somewhere. And I got up to the line. Finally, I decided to wait. And I can just tell she's super frazzled. So I was just like, all right, compassion. I'm going to be late for this. It's okay. And I just like started talking to her a little bit. And she had just started. So she was just like feeling frazzled, and the line got really long and she wasn't picking up on the system. It was like her second day. And then we started talking about astrology and how it was like, I think it was the full moon or something went in retrograde or something. So I was telling her about that, and she goes, oh, okay, maybe that's why I'm so frazzled. And I just like had to be patient, had to have compassion, had to giggle at the moment and just be there for this grocery store clerk because she was just having a hard day. And at the end, her manager came up and said, okay, you can go home now. And she was like, wait, I've only been here for like 3 hours. Like, is everything okay? Like, am I going to get fired? And she just instantly went into this spaz spiral of, oh my God, I did something wrong. And it kind of broke my heart because she was trying her best. You could tell. It's just like she wasn't moving fast enough for that particular moment at the grocery store. It was really busy. And I just wanted to tell her, like, don't create a story. It's not true. Like, don't just take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. Like, you never know what your manager really wants to talk to you about. Maybe he just needs to cut some hours this week or something. Like, and she just created this whole story in her head, and I could see her frantic facial expressions shift into even more frantic, even more like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And in those moments, because we all have them, it's so important to just take a deep breath and like have compassion for yourself and the place you're in and the emotions you're feeling. I don't know what happened to that grocery store lady, but I hope all the best for her. And she really ended up shifting my day completely, where I was like about to be in a bad mood with her, just like, rolling your eyes, not going to say anything, but like, okay, can we hurry it up here, to like, oh man, she's having a really hard day, and she's trying her best for me. And that's all you can ask for out of yourself and out of others. And to have, if you can recognize compassion and have compassion for humans in moments like that, other humans, you can find more compassion for yourself and vice versa. So it's kind of like, the more self-love you pour into yourself, the more love you can see in others, the more unconditional love and like space holding you can have for others, the more you can hold for yourself. And in order to grow this, it's the constant reminder of, what headspace am I in? How am I feeling? Okay, that's okay. And I can sit here and I can be with it. And that's totally fine. And that's where I'm at today. And I'm just going to sit in that emotion, and I'm going to really feel it and not attach to it and allow it to move through me with as much grace and ease as possible. So through self-care routine, which also is consistency within self-care, through holding compassion for yourself and others, and through being consistent in all of it, being consistent in your practices, being consistent in how you show up in the world, being consistent in how you show up for others, being consistent in holding unconditional love and compassion for yourself and for others, being consistent and taking action steps when you want manifestation to happen for you. It's just this beautiful conglomeration of steps towards living a more full, more happy, more joyous, more experimental life. And I think it's so important to hold yourself in this loving, like, be your own mother, be a mother to your inner child. Like, hold yourself as if you would hold you as a child, and recognize that giddy childlike innocence that is greatly affected by different emotions and different external environmental impacts and different words said by people, and try and keep that giddy innocence and sensitivity, because for me, being sensitive is like my superpower, being super empathetic, and it also can be really hindering of just like walking in a room and feeling every single person's energy, and trying really hard not to take that in. And if I can hold myself in a place of the way I would hold myself as a child, feeling overwhelmed in an environment, or unloved by all, or just giddy at life, it's just the more you can tap into that inner child and just really let it be and show its uniqueness and its true colors, is such a special transformational thing. And just showing up as this unconditional lover in all that you do, especially for yourself. And yeah, so it's just so important to fill up your own cup in these ways. Understand when it is a rest versus a resistance. Really tune in and tap into your gut, and just, yeah, hold that space of self-care. And that is just like, the more love you pour into yourself, the more love radiates out of you, and the more love you will receive back. And it's been a really interesting experiment with my partner, whereas in like, the more I look at the mirror and I'm like, damn, you're looking good today, look at all the things you've done, I'm so proud of you, and all of that, the more I feel like he pours that back into me. And I haven't even asked for that at all. It's just been like, he sees me doing the things I love that fill my cup up so much, and it has shifted the way he views me, because it's completely shifted the way I view myself. So if you're showing up in any relationship without self-love, without compassion for yourself, without consistency in the way you go about your life, you're not going to get that reflected back. If you're not consistent in the way you show up in your life, why would your partner want to be consistent with you? If you don't love yourself, how can your partner love you enough if you don't love yourself? So it's like these things that are just sound a lot easier than they are to make happen, but are just so crucial in shifting in your life to create more abundance and more manifestation power and more impact, and really hone in on what is your why, and why are you showing up in the world the way you are showing up, and are you showing up from an unconditionally loving place, and are you showing up for yourself as much as you're showing up for others? Because you cannot continually show up for others and never show up for yourself and be healthy, mentally or physically. And health is something that we forget to be thankful for every day, but without your health, what is there? And so if you can pour this love into yourself and into your health of your mind, the health of your body, that will just transform everything and allow you to feel just better. And who doesn't want to feel better and more joyous and more content and love in life? And so, yeah. So self-care, compassion, consistency. The three things, and consistency also being one of action. And continue to show up every single day with these, no matter where you're at in the realm of emotions or the spectrum. Understanding that they all are a spectrum of emotion. And how do you show up and go through the day with as much grace and ease and as much experimentation as possible, because that is where my joy lies anyway, and my happiness and my excitement for the world around me. And yeah, one giant experiment. Just try it out. Everything you do, be like, all right, this is one giant experiment I'm working on, and see how that shifts for you, because it just doesn't seem like as big of a failure anymore. If you think about like science and how many experiments they go through every day and how many fail besides how many actually work, and just use that little scientific method in your life and have so much compassion for yourself through it all. And yeah, love yourself. It's such a transformation. And I know a lot of it can stem from body image issues, and I'm definitely going to do a podcast about body image. But trust me, the more you look in the mirror and the more you give yourself those words of affirmation and compassion and genuine love for every part of your body and every part of your being, even the shadow parts, it will radiate out of you and you will receive it back in everything you do. Not all the time, but if you can recognize it, you'll see it coming back and flooding in, and it's a beautiful exchange of energy. Is you just dumping this love into yourself, and then you can dump love into others, and then they can dump love back in, so you have like two streams coming in, and it's just profound and transformational. So that it's a lot of information and rounds out another episode of Mornings with Marla. I love you all so much. We're, almost at 200 views in 30 days, which is insanely amazing to me. And I'm so blessed and so thankful for all of your attention and love pouring in. I am going to be consistent and continue to show up and release a podcast episode every Sunday. If you have any suggestions of things you want me to go on a Marla rant about, just you can DM me. My Instagram is _Marmo, MARMO. I am a confidence coach. Confidence being in the realm of relationships, in business, in yourself, in embodying confidence, and confidence in just pretty much everything you're going through in life. I also do oracle readings. I do private yoga coaching if you wanted something a little bit more on the realm of being able to create your own morning practice. If that's something you're interested in, you can also DM me. And yeah, I'd love if you resonate with this episode to share on your social media. I only have so much outreach, so the more it gets shared, the more people can view, the more medicine they can receive. And yeah, thank you all so much for being open and receiving me and listening to the knowledge that I spit, whether it be true or not true. It's very true to me, and has helped me through a lot of turmoil and trauma in my life. And I just only hope little bits and blurbs and pieces get to you and help you in a similar way. So thank you all so much again. Don't forget, self-care, compassion, and consistency is the way to be. So much love to you all. Thank you.